Hey you guys, happy Thursday and welcome to day 3 of the Triple Threat Fit Summer Series. So thank you to those of you who have been tuning in the past couple days, either on live at noon or catching up on the replays later. I always appreciate those of you who chime in and take the time to watch and listen and learn. Hey Colleen. So before we get started, I want to ask what the big takeaway from yesterday was, or just anything that resonated with you, something that might have come up either overnight after you listened to the training that maybe you didn't say while we were on. Hey Denise. So go ahead and let me know if anything from yesterday's more fitness related chat resonated with you. Quick recap is that we talked about really how to navigate the desire to be outside when the weather is nicer, how you might be able to adapt for those hot days, as well as giving yourself permission when you are out of routine. Denise, noon came fast. I agree. This morning flew by. So whether you're on live now or you're catching up on the replay later, you can let me know what your big takeaway from yesterday was. And for today, I want to really dive into mindset. And as you guys know, mindset is such a big topic. It can go in so many different directions. Really, a lot of what we do every single day in here is mindset. A lot of the talks, the talks on Tuesday and Wednesday, have mindset related components. So I was kind of waiting to see what came up the most for people, either on the lives, or some of you have been messaging me privately, which I also appreciate. So feel free to do that too. Colleen, biggest takeaway: permission to change the workout plan rather than stress about what you might not be able to do. Yes. Always figure out how, what are you not giving yourself permission to either do or not do? Where can you loosen your own reins a little bit in a way that serves you? So thank you for sharing that. So what came up a lot that I noticed for you guys is this concept of control. And this comes up a lot with my coaching clients, my one-on-one girls, the girls over in Empowered Together Coaching Club. And I think it's just when we have this perfectionist, tendency or mentality, we like to be in control of things. We want to make sure that things go our way. Nothing wrong with that, really, until it becomes a detriment. We want to make sure that we know exactly how to navigate things, and we get a little stressed when we feel like things are going to be out of our control. So today I want to pinpoint and really dive into a few scenarios that are common, not just Memorial Day weekend, but all summer long and throughout the year, really. You can apply this to a lot of things. So the first scenario, actually, they're kind of all food related, but you really can relate this to a lot of the workout stuff we've been talking about as well. But food comes up so much. So the first one is feeling like you don't have any say, or that you can't control a situation when somebody is pushing food on you. So I want to know, you guys, do you feel like you have people in your life? I'm sure we can all think of that one person who just constantly is oh, just eat this or whatever. And there's a little bit of peer pressure involved, and you feel stressed because you don't necessarily know how to say no. You don't know how to maybe do it in a gracious way, but still aligns with your goals. You don't want to be the one left behind. And it can be very easy to feel out of control in that scenario. So the first thing that I want to say, and this is going to be a little tough love, this whole talk really is going to be tough love, but that's part of who I am as a coach and my coaching style. I coach with a lot of compassion, and I definitely recommend that we always are looking for the wins and the lessons and all of that. But I am not going to sugarcoat and give rainbows and butterflies all the time. When tough love is warranted, I'm going to give it. And I think that my coaching girls who are on will attest to that. The tough love is that nobody can force you to put food into your mouth. It's just very strange if they actually are. So there's nobody that's eating the food except for you. your hand has to reach for the food, bring it to your mouth, your teeth are chewing, your digestive system is swallowing. Like, no one else is doing that. And if they are, I probably wouldn't want to be going into their party. You should probably be calling the police on them if they are like literally physically putting food down your mouth. So like, I have to say it like this, and I'm laughing, I'm making a joke about it, but a lot of us say like, I just have no control. Somebody is, making me eat that. That is not true. You are allowing them to make you feel that way. So what do you do? Because I know that it's also really tough to navigate. Like, you don't want to hurt people's feelings by declining something that they potentially made for you, or you don't want to have them feel bad. So what do you do? So a good go-to strategy that I always recommend is to have your firm answer. That could be, thank you, okay, but I'm full. Somebody might continue to push that, but you can be like, I'm really going to be uncomfortably full if I continue to eat. So I'm going to actually just wait until I feel hungry again, and I can't wait to have some later. Or you can say, you know what, if they're still pushing it on you, you can actually just take it and say like, I'm gonna take this, thank you so much, and I will try it later. Now, you don't have to try it later. You can throw this away. You could take a taste to be polite if you feel like that's fine for you. Like, maybe you'll be able to stop after one bite, but for those of you who feel like that's something you struggle with, or you truly don't even want one bite, you don't have to take it. Colleen, one big breakthrough for me was realizing I just get out of control. Oh my gosh, I'm going to probably mess this up, but let me see more as a way to not take responsibility. Yeah. For what choices you were making. Yes. So I'm glad that you've had that breakthrough. Like, we really, like, this is personal ownership and personal responsibility. I don't care if you have like an annoying coworker that's like, here, have this homemade muffin. You don't have to take it. Or you can take it and throw it away. Like, I don't know. It's fine. People might hate on me for saying I'm wasting food there, but it's fine. So just be firm and confident in your decision. Just like yesterday we talked about with the workout side of things, you can be that person that's going to work out on that trip. Just be confident about it. The more wishy-washy you are, the worse you're going to feel about it. So you can do that about saving it for later. You can also say something like, oh, like, thank you, but like X doesn't agree with me, and just make a joke about that. We don't want that to happen. Like, just say something like that. If you always kind of are just owning it, making light of it, it usually goes away. And then the second follow-up strategy to either of this, you guys, to feel in control, is to change the subject. Ask the person who is pushing the food on you an open-ended question. It always works because people freaking love to talk about themselves. And if you decline or whatever, and then be like, oh, hey, how's that new job going? Or, oh, what are those house renovations you're doing? Like, immediately, nobody gives a shit about whether you're eating the cookie anymore. They're just off talking about themselves. So that strategy, no thank you, change the subject, usually works. Now, if you're in a more like intimate setting, more one-on-one, it could be a good opportunity to share with somebody close. Like, this really depends on reading your audience about your journey and your goals. Like, have a heart-to-heart. You can tell them like what you're doing. You can I know, it's ridiculous. You can tell them what you're doing. You can share what your personal goals are, and you can like maybe say like, I would love your support in this. But what I find is that conversation is usually best had when you are not over food. Maybe you're doing that when you're on a walk or you're on the phone or whatever. Because the other piece of this is that people get very defensive and insecure about the food in the first place. And what comes up here for a lot of food pushers is insecurity, maybe jealousy that like you're doing something that they truly feel or believe that they can't, which is so sad. They need to come over here. Invite them to the Legit Fit Lifestyle Lounge. They feel maybe guilty now that like they're having it and you're not, so they like put that on you. But something that I encourage my clients to sometimes remember is that there could be a fear at play on the other person's end. Like, oh, this person's like being healthy, like what is that going to mean for me? What is that going to mean for our relationship now? That stuff comes up a lot with people in your life. Yes, same with booze pushers. Yeah, they're like, oh, well, now is this not going to be fun? Or like, if that is like a relationship that you've had, like you guys always go out and drink together, there's like a little bit of a fear factor involved into like, what is that going to mean? And this comes up a lot too on potentially your end, you guys, about your own fears. Like fear of success comes up because it's like, okay, if I change, what's at stake? Are my relationships at stake? Is this person going to still like me? There's a lot of that comes up, and we'll get into that a little more when we talk about self-sabotage. But just want to remind you guys about some what could be going through people's heads on their end as they're doing the food pushing, and just try and approach it with, empathy and self-compassion. You never want to be pushy about your choices either. Like, think about that. You might be thinking that someone's pushing food on you, but you don't. If someone really doesn't want like your kale salad, you can't be like, you really should eat this because it's high, and like, no one wants that preachy person either. So cut that. I don't think you guys are doing that, but just in case. And then another just last mindset reminder about this particular topic with the food pushers is you might hear a lot of people say comments like, oh, come on, just live a little, or let loose a little, or it's a holiday, so just eat what you want. And I want to remind you guys that when you are living a legit fit lifestyle, when you feel like you are truly an empowered eater and you are navigating scenarios mindfully and from this place of empowerment and making choices for yourself, either, yes, I'm going to indulge and have a little bit moderately, mindfully, and enjoy it, versus, feeling like, oh, I can't eat this, and now I ate it, and now I ate the whole thing, and now I'm going to continue to eat. Like when you approach food in that empowered way, and you're doing this every single day. So it doesn't matter if it's a holiday, it doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday, it doesn't matter if it's Saturday night, it doesn't matter if it's Thanksgiving or you're in the office or you're on vacation. Every day is kind of a regular day, and you do eat what you want every day. So it like makes no sense when people are like, oh, just eat what you want. You're like, I do, I am. But not everybody is there yet. Just like you probably weren't at one point. Okay, so just remind yourself that they are probably still living in this mindset where food has to be off limits, and we don't do that. So that is just a little bit on the feeling like you have more control when people are pushing food on you. So I hope that is helpful. And if anybody has any stories, like, let's share them, because these can get pretty funny. The second control topic that I wanted to just touch upon quickly, we're not going to go in too much depth, we talked about it a little bit the other day, is feeling like you have no control over the food that will be present in a situation. So we talked about how you might be able to just bring something ahead of time so you feel a little bit better about that. And that is totally an option. But what I really want for you guys as the ultimate goal is to feel like the ultimate control that you can have is trust in yourself to navigate the situation that you're in, no matter what that is, just to the best of your ability with the circumstances at hand, and knowing and trusting that it is not going to make you, gain 20 pounds overnight. It doesn't work that way. You will continue to gain 20 pounds if you let that decision throw you off the rails, and now you're eating for the next 2 weeks straight, right? So with this, again, the ultimate control is trust. And how are you going to just do the best that you can? Whether this is at a barbecue, it's a little easier to bring food there, but like, let's think of another situation. Maybe your company is one that over the summer gets you tickets and you guys have special seats at the Red Sox game. Like, you're not going to be walking in with your veggie platter to control the food. That's weird. So if you're in a situation like that, yeah, your choices are pretty limited. There's not a lot of like healthy options, but how can you navigate that just the best that you can? What will you eat the rest of the day, the rest of the week, so that you just can have fun and not worry too much about it? And how will you use the mindfulness strategies that you know and have learned in that scenario, and then just move right along, right? So I really want you to be mindful of when you catch yourself using like, oh, I'm not going to have control over the food that is going to be there. Well, you have control over your mindset about it, and you have control over how you navigate the rest of the day and before and after, and you have control over just doing the best you can. Okay, so that's your control. Next is not necessarily like, there's a difference between feeling like you don't have control over the food that will be there and then not having control over the food like once you're there, like you still, no matter what the food is, you feel like you don't have control over it. Hey mom. So there's a little bit of a difference. One is like ahead of time, you're worried that you won't have control like about what options there will be, I guess, versus you're there, and even if there are healthy options, you're like, oh, well, I have no control because there's some dessert over there or whatever it might be. Okay, so here's another scenario where I need to give you guys some tough love. You do have control. Again, no one's forcing the food in your mouth, and that was what I was saying about food pushers during the first point. But if you are someone who is consistently saying, I have no control around food, you 100% are letting food have too much power over you. Hands down, that is it. You are putting food on this pedestal for some reason, and food is just food. It's not good, it's not bad, it has no moral value. It's just food. So let's figure out why this is happening. And 95% of the time, I would say, if not more, those of you who feel like you have no control around the food are using food as a buffer. And what do I mean by that? It is a buffer between you and some negative emotion or some emotion that brings up discomfort that you are feeling. And that, until that emotion gets dealt with outside of food, you will continue to feel this way. So this is just, again, more tough love, but I see this all the time. This is self-sabotage at its best. Self-sabotage is really a way that people deal or react with emotions that come up. And it could be any emotion. Like, I'm not going to get into all that. Like, that's a whole nother thing. It could be any emotion that's uncomfortable for you that you just have not allowed yourself to navigate and that you haven't worked through, you haven't put in the mindset work about it yet. The other thing with self-sabotage is that it can be with food, it can be with booze, it can be with a lot of different behaviors. It doesn't have to be just these things, but you see self-sabotage with, let's say, spending too much money. You're spending your time on Amazon shopping, or you're procrastinating with work. Like, that's a big self-sabotage thing that comes up, at least for a lot of my online business owners and I in our coaching groups. Like, that is a big way that people self-sabotage. But, you know, here the relevant example is food and drink. So when this comes up, I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't know, like, why it happens. That is not an option anymore. Let's not say I don't know. If you could not say the words I don't know, you would figure it out. So let's take that out of it. And let's also stop thinking that self-sabotage is just something that happens to you. You know, I don't know why this it just happens to me. This is just something that happens. I don't know. I have no control over it, but you do. So you are choosing to do this to yourself because you are opting to not feel something else. So whether that is, you know, you're self-sabotaging because you don't want to fail, because you don't want to succeed. We talked about that. Like, people fear success, what might happen. You're self-sabotaging because you think it's going to take a long time to see results. There's so many reasons. You're self-sabotaging because you're not sure how to deal with anxiety, sadness, whatever. That self-sabotage becomes a habit because it's a cycle, and the body and the brain, they just get used to it. So it's now it's like you expect to have no control over food because that's just what you're used to, having no control. You're used to going to an event. It's just like people get used to that, like building a habit around food, like sitting on the couch at night and eating. And then they're like, all of a sudden, it's like just what you do when you're not even hungry. That's a habit. That's self-sabotage too. But this also can be like, okay, you're the person that at the party, you go into it with this mindset of having no control around food, and then you've built the habit of being the person that ends up eating the food and then feels bad about it. It's like this never-ending cycle of inefficiency. And really what needs to happen is you have to recognize the thoughts and patterns that are creating it, like hands down. And you have to be okay if that provides some feelings of discomfort, because you're going to feel uncomfortable anyways. After the fact, you still have the thing that's causing you to reach for the food, and now you're just uncomfortable because you're bloated. So, and you feel guilty. So you're going to have the discomfort anyways. So all of this to say, you guys, with the self-sabotage, when we are trying to control the outcomes of something, we're just putting all this pressure and all these rules on ourselves. And I want you to imagine, like, what might just happen if you didn't put so much like interference on it. What might that look like? How might you navigate a barbecue with your family and your friends differently if there wasn't so much pressure on yourself going into it, or this expectation that you are going to fail ahead of time? Okay. Or, you know, if you were at that event and not overeating and not choosing things that you don't actually want to be eating, like how might that barbecue look for you, like emotionally? And like, figure out what comes up. You might not like the answer, but that's information you can use. Okay. And what might happen on the flip side, on the positive side of things, like, can you have more fun, right? Because for your summer, if you are self-sabotaging that and you're trying to do everything perfect and control every single detail of all these things, what does that add? It adds more stress. It adds less fun. Nobody's having fun obsessively thinking and obsessively worrying about things. It's going to make you feel like you can never get it right. You're always thinking of something that you're not doing instead of recognizing the wins. We talked about that the other day a little bit, or maybe that was in my coaching group. I can't even remember now. But a lot of people will like navigate really well and then focus only on the thing that, you know, maybe wasn't perfect within the rules. So you're just always going to be feeling not good enough. And get clear on how your life would be different. How are you going to show up in the world as your best self, day to day, summer or not, if you don't have all of that stuff, you don't have all that extra baggage and weight on your shoulders? Because when you're working so hard to be perfect, you guys, which doesn't exist, it takes a lot of freaking time and energy. A lot of time and energy. And what else is suffering because of that? Is it your love life? Is it your work quality? Is it your relationship with your children? Like, I don't know what it is, but there is something else that's suffering because you're putting so much energy into how little control you have. All right, so think about that. So as you're going into this weekend and beyond, how can you have control without being obsessive? How can you make more controlled choices from a place of empowerment and not out of fear, not out of buffering, not out of self-sabotage, and not out of kind of deflecting or blaming other circumstances for your choices? Okay, so really just let that sink in over the weekend and let me know what comes up for you guys. Okay, so I know today was a little bit of tough love and more, you know, less tangible strategies, more that mindset stuff is usually like that. But this stuff is so important because it's never about the actual food. It's never about the actual workouts. It's always something like this is going on. And mindset itself could be, it's a whole coaching program, right? So mindset could be so many different things. Today, I just wanted to take the control and self-sabotage angle since that has been coming up. Okay, so I hope you've gotten a lot out of our 3 days together. I want to, Colleen, just speaking truths. You gotta, right? You gotta. Not gonna show up and sugarcoat. So I want to invite you guys, if all of this stuff has been resonating with you, if you feel like it's been helpful, the reminders, the new way of looking at things, whatever it is for you, I want to invite you to attend my webinar that I'm hosting next Tuesday night. It's the 28th, 7 p.m. Eastern. And On this webinar, I'm going to be talking about the #1 fitness strategy that most people are missing when it comes to crushing their summer goals. We're going to be going into way more detail than we got into yesterday, so it's not going to be like a repeat, okay? And I'm really going to be uncovering a lot about that shift in seasons and how you might be able to give yourself more of that permission to let go of the structure and kind of create your own little structure that's just not so demanding of yourself. But that will leave you feeling more in control in a healthy way. Again, control equals trust in yourself. And we're going to really just talk about that a lot on Tuesday night. As always, when I do a webinar, I shouldn't say as always, but as often, when I do a webinar, I have some pretty great bonus offers that I'm going to be giving away at the end for anybody who attends with me live. So it's just a little incentive to join me, and I hope that I will see you there. So I'll throw that link up again for anybody that wants it. And other than that, I think we're good. Have an awesome Thursday, you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.